Gracie Jiu-Jitsu rocks. Welcome to the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Rocks podcast, a podcast dedicated to Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and all things Gracie, including self-defense, competition, anti-bullying, women's self-defense and empowerment, nutrition, and most especially, the people involved in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. This podcast is for the average Joe. It's for anyone who practices, trains, teaches, or just loves to talk about or hear about Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. We'll explore the lives of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu practitioners, how they got involved in the art, and what effect it's had on their lives. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. Welcome to episode 97 of the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Rocks podcast. As always, I'm your host, Marty Josie, and thanks for listening. My guest today is Dr. Peter Goldman, better known as Dr. Pete, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But before we do, let's start with our martial arts quote, and that is, "Human beings are capable of virtually limitless degradation. They are also capable of virtually limitless improvement and achievement. Success depends on goals and on diligence in pursuing them." And that's from the legendary Mas Oyama. Okay, on the last episode, I said to make sure you tune in to this episode for an exciting announcement. And so I want to speak to that now for a moment. And if you follow us on social media, you might have already seen a post about this, but if you don't, this will be the first time you hear it. So my friend Aaron Sundstrom is going to be joining the show. Aaron hails from Destin, Florida, and will be a co-host and a roving reporter, so to speak. He plans to do a lot of traveling in the upcoming year, and so we're going to add on-location episodes to the show, and these will be video episodes where he'll tour and film different academies that he's visiting and interview the head instructor of the school, and at times maybe a mini interview with a random student at that location. So I'm excited to welcome Aaron to the show. You'll find out more details about Aaron in the upcoming episodes, but again, welcome Aaron. Okay, on to the interview. Dr. Peter Goldman, again better known as Dr. Pete, is a chiropractic physician and founder of the Zone School of Healing. He's a BJJ Black Belt under Carlos Sapão and a Black Belt in Oyama Full Contact Karate. He represented the USA in the 1991 European Full Contact Karate Championships. Dr. Pete is also the personal chiropractor to many of the world's top professional athletes, from UFC fighters to NFL and NHL players, pro cyclists, and Olympians. His work has been featured in several magazines and newspapers, including the San Francisco Chronicle, Black Belt magazine, and Massage and Bodywork magazine. In this interview, he talks about his journey in full contact karate and BJJ, training to ensure that you don't build a false sense of confidence, what chiropractic is and how his work differs from mainstream chiropractic, working with the BJJ and MMA elite, including people like BJJ Penn, Bas Rutten, Rickson and Kron Gracie, as well as others, and the biggest influences on his life, and much, much more. So I really had a blast interviewing and talking with Dr. Pete, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy hearing his story and his insights. After the interview, make sure you stick around for the Make a Difference, Make an Impact segment. And now, without further ado, let's talk to Dr. Pete. Okay, I'm speaking with Dr. Pete Goldman, chiropractic physician and founder of Zone School of Healing. He's also a BJJ Black Belt under Carlos Sapão. So welcome to the show, Dr. Pete.
Thanks, I appreciate it. I'm really happy to be here, and I've been looking forward to this for a while.
Me too. I appreciate you taking time to do it for sure. So you really have a lot of great things going on, Dr. Pete. You're BJJ Black Belt, you're a chiropractor to many of the world's top BJJ and MMA athletes. So I want to definitely want to get into your work, your zone therapy, but let's start with your martial arts journey. You've had a long history in the martial arts, especially in karate. So tell us kind of how that first started and how you eventually ended up in BJJ.
Sure. Okay. Well, I'm born and raised in Brooklyn. And when I was, Brooklyn's pretty nice now, but when I was a kid, Brooklyn was not safe. It was not safe at all. So even walking to and from school was an adventure. And I was always very athletic. So I was always, on the top level of sports. And, for some reason, people thought like, hey, if he's a super great athlete, he must know how to fight. So that actually avoided a lot of fights for me, because they figured, hey, if he's the best at this, he must also be a great fighter, which wasn't true. I really did not know how to fight. But, it worked well for a while. But at some point I said, I got to learn to defend myself, because I'm growing up in this pretty dangerous atmosphere. So when I was a kid, I don't know, I was probably about 11, I started taking some kind of martial art. I don't even know what it was. I guess it was some kind of karate. I'm not sure. It was okay. I don't really think I learned how to defend myself too well, but I had a good time with my friends. And then I kind of got out of it. And then when I was 16, I joined Kyokushin karate, which, for those who don't know, I would say it's the best karate in the world for real fighting. I'm not saying, there's many reasons people join martial arts. Some people join martial arts to make friends. Some do it to get in shape. Some do it to be part of a community. Some do it for all kinds of reasons. But if practical self-defense is on your list of reasons to join martial arts, man, Kyokushin karate is no joke. It was established by Bas Oyama.
It's a pretty hardcore style. I know. Do you remember the documentary Fighting Black Kings? Did you ever see that? One
of my favorite movies, and Willie Williams was, one of the featured fighters, and the guy that I fought all the time in the dojo.
Really?
And Frank Clark was one of the featured fighters.
Nice.
Frank Clark was one of my main coaches and my cornermen.
That's really cool. Really cool.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with that.
Yeah,
and
nice.
Shigeru Oyama, who was featured prominently in that movie, is my teacher.
Really?
So quite familiar.
Very cool. I had no
idea. Bas Oyama created Kyokushin karate, and Bas Oyama was a real tough dude. He actually was a 4th degree in judo, and as a saying that Kimura, the Kimura that beat Helio Gracie, Kimura, who was in the dojo with Bas Oyama in judo, used to say, hey man, no one's going to beat Oyama in judo. Imagine that. So Kimura is saying no one's going to beat Oyama in judo. But then Bas Oyama wanted to do more striking, so he left judo, but he always was good friends with Kimura. They were friends till the end.
Cool.
And he established Kyokushin karate. And one thing people don't realize, and I'm not, listen, I got to say, Thai boxing is awesome. I've trained in Thai boxing. I've trained in Bangkok. I have amazing respect for Thai boxing, and I'm not saying one's better than the other. I just want to say this. When MMA fighters say, hey, I want to get my stand-up really good, they often, do Thai boxing, which is great. I think they should. But just to tell you how great Kyokushin is, in 1962, I believe, Lumpini Stadium challenged all of Japan. They said, look, we're Lumpini Stadium. We have these great champs. And we challenge you to send your best fighters and fight us in Thai boxing rules. And Bas Oyama accepted, and he trained 3 of his Kyokushin fighters. They went to Lumpini Stadium with full Thai rules. They fought 3 Lumpini Stadium champs at 3 different weight classes in Thai rules, elbows to face, gloves, everything. And Kyokushin won 2 out of 3, both by KO. And the Thai boxing guy who won, he won on a cut. He elbowed the Kyokushin guy in the eye, and he cut him, and they stopped it on a cut. I mean, he was going to win anyway. He really dazed him. He was beating the guy up. But Kyokushin is no joke. And I have a lot of good friends who are elite MMA fighters, and they'll even ask me. They'll be like, hey, Pete, can you show me some cool stand-up stuff? And I'll show them some principles, and they use them. So anyway, Kyokushin's awesome, and I did train with Shigeru Oyama, who's considered Masayama's best student ever. In fact, Masayama said it. It's written. You can see it's a written document. It's a picture signed by Masayama to my teacher. It says to my best student ever. So the best Kyokushin fighter ever, really. My teacher, Sugiuro Oyama, he had a dojo in New York City, and I joined it when I was 16, and I ended up becoming a fighter for him, and I fought on his elite team, and I fought in Europe and the U.S. And, when you fight in Kyokushin, you're trying to knock the guy out cold. It's real. It's real. Like the rules are you're trying to knock the guy out cold. So it's pretty cool. So Kyokushin had a great effect on me as a person and even as a healer, which we can talk about later, and as a martial artist. And I'm really, really happy I did it. And I still play around with it here and there.
It's very cool. And for people who don't know, I don't know if you said this, is it's bare knuckle. I mean, it's not with pads or anything like that, right?
Bare knuckle.
Yeah. It's hardcore.
No pads. You just wear a cup and a mouthpiece.
Wow. Hardcore, my friend.
You can, like a Thai clinch, you can grab someone's neck and knee them in the face as hard as you can. That's legal.
Wow. So how did you move from there? Did you do anything in the interim between there and jiu-jitsu, or how did you get into jiu-jitsu eventually?
After Kyokushin, there's no really after Kyokushin. When I say after, I mean, there was a point I was training 5, 6, 7 days a week, 2 hours a day, but I still play around with it to this day. But after my real hardcore Kyokushin days, I did some boxing. I tried judo, tried a couple things. I respect all martial arts. I think they're all awesome. And then I decided to try Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And, I'm a black belt now, so I went through the ranks and did my thing. But Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for me was always recreational. I mean, I love it. I have full respect for it. It's amazing. But just at the time of my life I did it, it was more like a recreational thing. But I love it, and I train, regularly. And we can talk more about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu if you have specific questions about my opinions about it. But I love it. So
how did you get introduced to it?
Well, it was funny. I was, when I did Kyokushin, this was around 1990. So I did it for a while, but I remember it was about 1991, and I was in a gym. I was talking to this guy at the gym, and he said to me, there's this thing called Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. And man, back then I didn't even understand what the ground was, like as far as like wrestling or jiu-jitsu. And I just was so confident in Kyokushin. I was just sure it was the best thing out there. And this guy was like, yeah, these guys are beating everyone. It was before the UFC, because the UFC was in 93. And then in 1993, when the UFC came out, UFC 1, Gerard Gordeau, who got to the finals against Hoist, he's a friend of mine. He's a Kyokushin fighter. It only was listed as Savat because he had knocked out the Savat champ, so he was able to use that title. But he was a Kyokushin guy. I knew him. He's my friend. I know him to this day.
Wow, that's cool.
So Gerard Gordeau, he fought in that. I'm like, he's pretty tough. And to this day, he claims that he would have beat Hoist if he didn't have the sumo guy's tooth lodged in his foot. And he also had a broken hand, I think. So he went into the finals with a broken hand and a tooth lodged in his foot. And he had beat the sumo guy and, a kickboxer. And he says that if it weren't for all that, he would have beat Hoist in the finals. But whatever, it doesn't matter. That's between him and whoever, right. Or it's between him and Hoist. I think they have a lot of respect for each other now. But I don't want to misquote him, but I believe that's what Gerard Gordeau had said at some point. But whatever. So I saw that. I'm like, I want to learn this. And I started taking lessons. And, I was kind of on and off. I'd do it and then not do it and do some kickboxing here and there. And, at different points along the way, I spent, some periods of time where I was training quite a bit and some periods where I took some time off and did other stuff. I always stayed in shape. I play ice hockey too. So I play ice hockey or I play other sports and stay in shape or do, stand up. But I always kind of come back to jiu-jitsu, and I'm at a point now where I'm doing jiu-jitsu, a few days a week.
Nice. You say you'd heard about it and everything. When you first started it, what were your first impressions?
I was unfamiliar with it. I didn't, my high school didn't have a wrestling team, so I was even unfamiliar with, anything on the ground was, unfamiliar to me. So I didn't understand anything about the ground, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, judo. I had played around with judo a little bit, but I was pretty unfamiliar with any of this stuff. And it was kind of a new world, but I didn't give it much thought. You know, when I was a Kyokushin fighter, I was a fighter. I was fighting, you know, essentially the best guys in the world, which would be the equivalent of like an Abu Dhabi or a Metamoris in Jiu-Jitsu. I was fighting the best fighters in the world in that kind of full contact karate stuff. So I really was a student of the game, and I was very philosophical about it, and I trained really hard, and I thought about it a lot. In Jiu-Jitsu, I didn't really give it much thought. I was like, oh, this is cool. Okay, I'll do this. You know, just recreational. I was just having fun. I didn't give it too much thought, but I always liked it. I always enjoyed it. I've always been a little better. I've always been a little better at no gi than gi. I don't know why. It's not that I like it better. I like them both. I do them both. No gi always came a little more naturally to me than gi. I don't know why. I like them equally well, and I train them both. But no gi was always just easier for me. So even when I was like a blue belt, you know, I could do well against almost any belts in no gi. So that was always interesting. But yeah, I've always enjoyed jiu-jitsu, and I have a lot of respect for it, and I love it.
Awesome. So you mentioned your philosophy. What are some of your philosophies about not only jiu-jitsu but martial arts in general?
Well, I kind of touched on it before, but I'll reiterate. People join martial arts for many reasons. Some join it for practical self-defense. Some join it to get in shape. Some join it to make friends. You know, some join it to be part of a community. You know, some join it because they come from a broken home and they just want like a family, you know, kind of like their family. They don't have any support from their actual family, so they get a family. And that's fine. You know, whatever people want to join it for is cool. I think practical self-defense is important. And, you know, I think some people live in a bit of a dream world about what really works. But, you know, if they have to find out, I guess they find out. You know, like there are some people who would say that the completely sportive jiu-jitsu, where like you never even start standing. Like every time you go to class and it's time to spar, you sit on your butt and you pull guard. You're not even starting standing. You slap hands and you just lay down. You know, some people would say that if someone is really big and mean and wants to hurt you and doesn't care about you and doesn't care about themselves, and they want to hurt you in the street, you may not really be prepared for that, for someone gunning punches at your head, especially if you don't know how to take people down. And if you have a very sportive guard and your face is not being protected, some would say that that's not very practical self-defense.
Yeah.
Then you have guys like the Gracie Academy, like Hero and Henner and things like that, and, you know, and many other people who really take into account practical self-defense when they're rolling and teaching. And like I said, everyone does it for their own reason. So I have no input for anyone. They can do whatever they want. I'm just pointing out that if practical self-defense is on your list, you want to think like, wait, do I even know how to take someone down? If someone's a 6'3", 215-pound, really good boxer who's hard to take down, and I'm just used to like sitting on my butt and pulling guard every day, you know, but they're really attacking that person in the street, do they really know what to do? I'm not saying they don't, but I don't know. Part of my philosophy is, you know, if practical self-defense is on your list of things that you care about, then, you know, think about if you're actually training for that. I think martial arts is great in so many ways. It's like, it teaches you, like if you're training a really good stand-up martial art, like boxing or Thai boxing or Kyokushin, you know, a lot of mental and spiritual trainings talk about staying in the moment and don't live in the past, don't live in the future, you know, stay in the moment. Well, if someone's in front of you and they're trying to knock you out, you better be in the present. It's almost like a samurai, you know, when
Right.
samurais were fighting, if someone has a sharp sword, they'll sever your head.
You better be right there and
well,
clear.
I guess you're in the moment, because if you're thinking about something else, you know, you probably will have no head soon. So I think some martial arts really keep you in the moment, and that's kind of a cool training. Another thing is, like, one guy I like a lot is a guy named Koichi Tohei, and if anyone's not familiar with him, Koichi Tohei, Tohei. I recommend any books by him. Koichi Tohei was an Aikido master. Now, some people think, Aikido is a bunch of BS. It doesn't work, whatever. I'm not saying it does or doesn't. I'm not even getting involved in that conversation. But what I am saying is that Koichi Tohei was the only 10th degree ever given out by the founder of Aikido, O-sensei. And Koichi Tohei taught his own brand of Aikido. It's called Ki Aikido. And he talks more about the principles of energy than most Aikido people do. And he was a real badass. Matter of fact, there's a story, I think it was in the 1950s, he was invited to Hawaii from Japan. And when he went to Hawaii, he was invited to give a demonstration. And I think when he got the demonstration, all of a sudden he looks over and he sees like 4 or 5 big judo guys in their gis, and they were like the best judo guys in Hawaii. And they're like, no, we want to fight this guy. And there were a bunch of like off-duty cops who were just good street fighters, like, no, we want to fight this guy. And he's like, man, I just came to give an Aikido demonstration. And they're like, no, you're gonna have to fight. And he like, you know, this was like documented in Black Belt magazine in the 50s, and it's in a few books. But he like, you know, kicked everyone's butt, and he was just a real legit fighter. But also he explained the principles of energy really well. So why do I bring him up? A lot of people do a lot of like Zen meditation and Zazen and, you know, sitting in a certain way. But he shows that if you're not coordinating your mind and body properly, you could be sitting in this so-called posture you've been sitting in for 20 years, and he'll just push you right over with like an ounce of strength. So I think when you're in the presence of a real master, like a Koichi Tohei or like my teacher, or like, you know, like Carlos Gracie Sr. or Elio Gracie or Carlson Gracie, et cetera, you know, you kind of see where you're really at as a martial artist and maybe even as a person.
That's a great point. I'm going to go back and comment on something you shared a minute ago. I completely agree with, well, first of all, even with when you mentioned the Aikido, I think people get into sometimes bashing certain styles and say, you know, this style works, this style doesn't, and making some kind of judgment instead of, you know, all styles can work, you know, depending on the circumstances and depending on the practitioner and where they are, right? And their skill level and how much they've mastered the art and that kind of thing. But so I don't diss any art. I think they all have they're all valid. And like you said, some people get into it for different reasons. So there's value in all of them. But going back to what you said about if you're, say, getting into jiu-jitsu for self-defense or any martial arts self-defense, I think you do have to create, of course, safety has got to be your first concern because you want to last, you know, a lifetime in the arts. You don't want to be killing each other. But at the same time, you do need to create a little bit of realism in your training at various times and a little bit of intensity. And if not, you can certainly cultivate a false sense of confidence. If we start going through the motions and we're very cooperative, which is a good thing, but let's say you're practicing defending someone choking you, and after a while, they've done it so many times, they don't actually put their hands around your neck anymore. They kind of put it more on your clavicle traps, you know, more loosely, and you get used to kind of going through the motions instead of really feeling that energy and that aggression whenever they're attacking. So one thing that's kind of left out a lot of time is that getting adrenalized. And I think whether you use it verbally or a physical threat and training, at least sometimes we have to create that a little bit to know that when we're in a real situation, we got to know we're going to be adrenalized. And if you're not used to being in that state at all that training you can just freeze, you know, and all that training for naught. So I do think that's an area that arts need to do, especially if you're really wanting to be a master of self-defense. You do have to create a little bit of that stimulating in the nervous system so you'll be ready.
I agree. And, you know, it's funny because you take like Krav Maga, and, you know, Krav Maga is taught by many people, but I mean a real certified Krav Maga school that's a legit Krav Maga school. I'm not saying their techniques are good. I'm not saying they're bad. That's a different conversation. Mm-hmm. But the point is they simulate some really rough situations. Now, let's just go into the hypothesis that a BJJ sports class, let's go into the hypothesis that their techniques they're learning and doing are better for self-defense than the Krav Maga. I'm not saying they are or not. I don't know. Right. But the point is, because Krav Maga is simulating these like very rough situations day in and day out in class, you're kind of ready for that, to, you know, kick someone in the groin or elbow them in their face or whatever they're teaching over there. Whereas if someone's just like going to BJJ class and it's totally sportive and you're there with your friends and you kind of flap hands, you never start standing, you sit in your butt, you pull half guard, Maybe those techniques are superior. I don't know. But are you more ready for a self-defense situation? I don't know either.
Yeah. I think anybody that trains is more ready than the average person for sure. But if you're practicing with a little bit of intensity, but also like getting ready for someone striking, there's jiu-jitsu people who've never dealt with a strike in their life, and they're masters on the mat. But then, like the old saying, everybody has a plan until you get hit in the face. So not knocking, if sport is your thing, that's great. And I don't think there's as big a divide as some people make it, like, oh, here's sport, here's self-defense. But I do think if self-defense is your goal, you need to create some realism and realize that you got to train to deal with strikes and other things. If it's not your thing, that's fine.
I agree.
Too.
I just want to add to that. And just to be clear, I got nothing bad to say about sport, jiu-jitsu or whatever.
Right.
I'm just making some comments on some different ideas and theories. If someone does sport jiu-jitsu, good for them. Well, that's awesome.
Right.
By the way, I want to say that you mentioned the Mike Tyson quote, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. I want to add the Carlson Gracie Sr. quote, which is, you punch a black belt in the face, he becomes a brown belt. You punch him in the face twice, he becomes a purple belt. You punch him in the face 3 times, he becomes a blue belt, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So if you have a guard and your guard can't defend face punches, that's a problem on the street. And by the way, just to switch gears a little bit from an offensive perspective, Carlos Gracie, who's a good friend of mine and one of my teachers, he's a 9th degree red belt, probably the most unknown Gracie, but some say the best. That's a different conversation. I'm not saying I know the answer, but we could talk about that if you want. But Carlos Gracie says that when you're in someone's guard in MMA or the street, as long as your fist is reaching their face, there's no reason to pass. As soon as your fist stops reaching their face, it's time to pass.
Interesting. Yeah. Food for thought. So let's shift gears just a moment, Dr. Pete, and talk about your work. So first, for people who aren't familiar with chiropractic, just give a quick kind of overview of what that is in general, and then kind of how your work differs from traditional chiropractic and how you developed your own method, your own therapy.
Most people these days, if you say the word chiropractor, they either think like, A, I don't like that, I'm not going, or B, I like it and it's good for neck and back pain. And there's some other people that might think some other stuff, but it usually falls into those 2 categories. Like, hey, I've never gone to one, but I don't want to go. Or, yeah, I go, it's good, fixes neck and back pain. Well, let me just tell you a little bit about chiropractic. I don't know how we got to 2018 with things being the way they are, but in 1895, the first chiropractor, D.D. Palmer, he created chiropractic. And he wrote a book of what chiropractic was, and it had almost nothing to do with neck and back pain. He was helping people with anything and everything, because his idea is when you align the spine, it takes pressure off nerves, and those nerves can flow to tissues, organs, cells properly, so those parts of the body can heal and function right. So he was talking about helping people with their digestion, their glands, their circulation, their immune system, etc., and he was doing that. Now, over the years, chiropractic has fallen into this neck and back pain thing. When I was in chiropractic school, I saw a speaker. His name was Michael Kale, and he was a very famous chiropractor who was of the old school and was helping people with everything under the sun. And he spoke at our school, and he had a piece of paper with him in his hand as he was speaking. He said, look, this is from the New England Journal of Medicine, and it says chiropractic is the best way to help neck and back pain. Better than surgery, better than muscle relaxers, better than painkillers, better than anything. Chiropractic is the best way to help neck and back pain. And, some of the people in the audience clapped. And then he took the piece of paper and he ripped it up. And he goes, I don't give a damn. He goes, I don't need some medical journal to tell me that, number one. And number two, chiropractic is hardly about neck and back pain. Chiropractic is about helping people with anything except emergency medicine. God forbid someone's appendix burst. Well, call 911. Or someone needs stitches. Go get stitches. But I personally do a technique. It was invented originally by a guy named Dr. Thurman Fleet, and anyone can go to the website drthurmanfleet.com, drthurmanfleet.com, and read a little bit about him. He practiced in the 30s, 40s, 50s in San Antonio, Texas, and he had people coming to him from everything under the sun. Now, me, I've taken what I've learned from his technique. I've altered it a bit. I call it his own technique. Anyone can check me out at sfgoldman.com. That's SF like San Francisco, goldman.com. But I'll tell you right now, I have people coming to me, of course, for neck and back pain a little bit, but 80% of my people are coming to heal their circulation, their glands, their digestion, their immune system, their energy level, pretty much anything under the sun outside of what would require emergency medicine, like I mentioned before. And most of my patients are coming and saying, hey, Pete, I've been to other chiropractors, I've been to medical doctors, I've been to acupuncture, I've been to homeopathy. I'm still sick. I need your help. And they come and they get better. And by the way, one thing I'm really happy about is that I have people flying into me from all over the world. I mean, I have people not like saying like, hey, Pete, I'll be in San Francisco. I heard about you. Can I come see you? I'm talking about people who say, hey, Pete, I have this problem. I need help. I have no reason to be in San Francisco, but I'm going to fly there for a week so you can help me. Happens all the time. And to give you a BJJ story to kind of wrap them both together, and I have many stories like this, but here's one. About 5 years ago, I got contacted by this guy, Canadian guy living in Malaysia, Canadian guy working in Malaysia, hurt his neck badly. He was a purple belt in BJJ, training all the time, hurt his neck badly, had an MRI. They're like, look, you got herniated disc in your neck. You got to get neck surgery. There's nothing else we can do. You will never do BJJ again. He didn't want to do that. He went from medical doctor to medical doctor for a second opinion. No one would work with him. Everyone's like, no, you need neck surgery and you will never do BJJ again. He goes back to his academy, had a tearful goodbye with everyone. But then he heard about me, came to see me for about a week. Now, obviously, if someone lives near me, I say, come once or twice a week for 4, 5, 6 weeks. We'll fix you up. But obviously, if someone flies in to see me, we don't have the luxury of twice a week for a few weeks. So I see them every day. I saw him every day for about 7 days. He went back to Malaysia. Neck was perfect. He got his black belt. He's fine. And he's actually referred a ton of other people from there. So I have this whole contingent from Malaysia who flies in to see me, who are supposed to get this surgery, that surgery. And, of course, they never get it. Now, BJ Penn, the guy you're familiar with, I met BJ Penn in 2004. BJ Penn had a severe neck injury, herniated disc. He tried everything. They told him, BJ, you got to retire and get neck surgery. We fixed him up in 6 visits. And, you've heard different things about BJ Penn. He's had ups and downs in his career. But you know what? You never heard about his neck again. And I've been good friends with BJ ever since, and I still adjust him. And, if someone says, hey, I think chiropractic's BS, I just don't believe it. And you can believe whatever you want. You can say, I don't believe in gravity. You walk off a cliff,
Exactly.
You're dead. So what I'm saying is my results speak for themselves. I don't argue with anyone. Someone's like, no, chiropractic's BS. I could care less what they say.
Right,
I wouldn't even respond to their argument. I'd say, listen, I have people coming to me who have migraine headaches for 20 years. They've tried everything under the sun. Nothing helps. They come to me for a month, never have a headache again. People coming to me with severe digestive problems. Tried everything under the sun, no results. They come to me for a month or two. Their digestion is great. People coming with weak immune systems. They get colds twice a month. That's about 24 colds a year. They come to me for a few months. They get like 1 cold a year or like 0 colds a year. So my healing results speak for themselves. I would never argue with anyone. Even if there's a chiropractor listening saying, no, I don't think it does. Think whatever you want. The results speak. Right. If there's a medical doctor listening saying, nah, chiropractic's BS. Well, okay, chiropractic's BS. But the results speak for themselves. So people aren't flying into me for nothing. They're flying into me for that. And then I have people driving 4 and 5 hours each way to see me. Speaking of BJJ and the people driving 4 and 5 hours, I had this one guy, BJJ guy, lives about 4 hours away from me, I think 5 actually, had a severe car accident, hurt his neck very badly. After the car accident, he hurt his neck so bad that the nerve to his eye was interfered with. He lost sight in one eye, and he had horrible, horrible headaches. He came to me for the headaches, not for the sight. Came to me for the headaches. I'm like, look, man, he drove 5 hours or whatever it was. I go, look, we'll fix you up. We'll put the headaches to bed. And, I am going to adjust your neck. It's going to affect the nerve to your eye. I didn't tell him he's going to get his sight back, but I said, hey, we're going to affect the nerve to your eye. I adjusted him. He got partial sight back in his eye, and his headaches went away. He went back, told everyone in the town, he's like, man, this guy got my sight back. And I got about 60 people from that town coming up to see me driving, 4 or 5 hours away. It's called Tulare. There's a town next to it called Visalia. Between Tulare and Visalia, which is about 4 or 5 hours from San Francisco, I got about a whole crew coming. So, anyway, so I don't debate with people. Yeah. It's just results. I don't debate philosophy. I don't debate theory. I could care less. I'm just down with results, and the results have already spoken. So that's all I have to say about that.
Well, I'm a believer, man. I've been into holistic health, natural health, complementary, whatever name you want to call it, but for many, many, many years. I remember way back in the day when the American Medical Association, really tried to get chiropractic, banned. They thought they were all quacks. So it's come a long way in acceptance, but it's still, depending on where you are, a lot of people still don't understand, why it's so valuable and what it does. I think it's tragic that they get known for just neck and back stuff, and that's probably largely, influenced by insurance and what they'll cover and that kind of thing. So they end up being this, let's fix your pain kind of thing instead of the whole person, which is really the goal. You get out of the body's, stop the body from interfering with itself, and it can heal so many things. So yeah, freeing up the nerves, getting your musculature right, everything can have a profound impact. I almost went into chiropractic. I toured a lot of the different schools, and I was a neuromuscular massage therapist and sports massage therapist for many, many years. But I've seen a lot of what you're saying, people that didn't believe, and then once they decided to go ahead and give it a try reluctantly, seemingly miraculous to them. So I'm a big believer for sure.
I'll say this also. That's awesome. And I'll say this. From 1895, when chiropractic was invented, till probably the 1950s, I bet you 95% of chiropractors were spectacular. Unfortunately, from the 60s till now, I think, chiropractic kind of went downhill as a profession. And right now, I bet you 90% of chiropractors, are just neck and back pain. They don't even know what they're doing. But there's that 10% that understand the bigger picture and can do amazing things. I'm just estimating when I say 90%. I don't know what it is. But, am I defending the whole chiropractic profession in 2018? No. A lot of chiropractors are, giving real chiropractic a bad name. But authentic chiropractic from 1895 and, D.D. Palmer and Dr. Fleet and what I'm doing and what some others are doing is amazing stuff. And I do, as you mentioned in the intro, I have a school. It's called the Zone School of Healing, where I teach chiropractors all over the world online how to do what I do. Zonetechnique.com is the website for that. And, my school, I have, quite a few students. I even have some osteopaths, acupuncturists, and naturopaths in the school. So if you're a chiropractor or any of those other things, you want to learn what I do, you go to zonetechnique.com. You can join the school. And I just want to say my school has 100% money back guarantee, because I don't want anyone in this world to ever take my class online and be like, man, that's not what I thought it was. I didn't like that. That's not what I expected. I'm not satisfied, and still having paid me. So anyone who takes my class and doesn't like it, we give you a full refund. And we don't play around with the refund. We don't say like, oh, we're going to refund you in 3 weeks, or we're going to refund you minus the credit card fee. No, whatever you pay us, we will refund you that amount immediately if you don't like it. And I've had actually 3 refunds. So 3 people wanted refunds. I didn't ask any questions. I gave them their money back. But I have, a huge crew of people who are beyond thrilled. So if you want to learn what I do and you're a healer of some type, you go to zonetechnique.com, join my school, and one of 2 things will happen. You'll either love it will change your life and your patient's life, or you won't like it, and it's free. So no risk.
Awesome. One thing I think that does give a lot of chiropractors a bad name is people have shared with me, you go there and they start treating you, but then they want you to come 3 times a week for 3 or 4 months, just ongoing. And it just seems to be like, wow.
That's just marketing.
They're just milking it or what? Yeah. But it sounds like you're different in that. Yeah, it sounds like you get the results and it's done, boom. So
yeah, I just tell people, I say, come once or twice a week until you're better. Might take 1 week, might take 3 weeks, might take 5 weeks, might take 6 weeks. But you know what? If you've had migraine headaches 7 days a week for 10 years, and you've tried other chiropractors, medical doctors, acupuncturists, herbalists, and you still have migraine headaches, and you come to me for 5 weeks, twice a week, and you never have a headache again, you're pretty happy. Yeah. So I just say come twice a week or once a week until you're all better, and then you're done. And when you're done, you can come for maintenance. You pop in when you want to. We'll keep you nice and balanced.
Right on. So specifically with zone or zone method or zone therapy, how does that different from traditional chiropractic? And just get a little bit into the specifics of that.
The difference is this. Most chiropractic, I mean good chiropractic, not the garbage, but most, real chiropractic is under the assumption the brain is sending the right signals out to the body. So they locate certain points in the spine that have misalignment, and then they put those bones, back into the proper position to get the spine aligned and take pressure off nerves. So the brain signal can come down through the cord, out the nerves, to the cells in the body, and the body can be healthy, which is great. I like that. I like regular chiropractic. But the zone technique doesn't make the assumption that the brain is balanced in the first place. So we have a way to check what's happening in the brain to see what brain centers are not in harmony with the systems they control. And then I stimulate specific points in the spinal cord, just with my hands, very gentle, and it resets the brain centers so the brain can be in harmony with all the cells in the body. That's what sets it apart. However, I like results, So if there's a chiropractor out there who doesn't do the zone technique and they get spectacular results, yeah, that's great. I'm all, you don't need my school. Good for you.
Okay, cool. So how did you get, I know you mentioned BJJ Penn and a few other, how did you get involved with kind of these high level big names in jiu-jitsu? So you also do NFL and other professional athletes as well as everyday average people as well, which is cool. But how did you get involved in, with the BJJ and MMA elite, so to speak, and how did that develop?
Well, first of all, there are people who are sports chiropractors. I am not a sports chiropractor in any way, shape, or form. I told you 80% of my people come to me for non-musculoskeletal, but I bet you'll get better results than any sports chiropractor. So a small part of my practice is neck and back stuff, and a lot of pro athletes come to me for that, but a lot of pro athletes come to me just for general health, BJJ Penn, and so does Jake Shields, Gilbert Melendez, and a lot of other, famous people you've heard of. Sometimes it's musculoskeletal, like Justin Tuck, very famous NFL football player. When he became a Raider, he came to me and he said, hey, I get stingers all the time. I said, how often? He said, every game and every practice, I get stingers. I said, okay, let's work on you. And I adjusted him once a week through the whole season. At the end of the season, I said, Justin, how many stingers did you get this year? He said, 0.
Wow.
That's kind of a musculoskeletal thing. I told you about BJJ Penn already. Bas Rutten had asthma his whole life, and then I met him in 2004, and I balanced him out, and he was able to breathe properly, and he documented that. And then when I fixed BJ up, some martial arts publications did large articles on me, and then the floodgates opened, and Kenny Florian and all these, I have adjusted, from Rickson, Kron, Gracie, Clark Gracie, Higgin Machado, Eddie Bravo, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on. If I listed all the super famous MMA and BJJ stars that I've worked on, we'd be here for half hour just me listing them. But it's just a little sliver of what I do. I mean, my average patient is like a little kid or a pregnant woman or a geriatric person or whatever. That's what I do.
No, that makes it even cooler that you're so well-rounded and treat all kind of different people and not just, that segment. But it is cool that you treat them as well without giving sharing too much about somebody. Or does anything stick out? Did anybody ever surprise you? Totally different than what you thought before you met them as far as the BJJ people?
Oh, you mean like personality?
Yeah.
Personality? Okay. Well, I guess this is not really answering the question, but I will answer it. But at least you reminded me of something else, okay, which I think you might find cool. So as a stand-up fighter, Rob Kamen was my idol when I was a fighter. Rob Kamen, for those who don't know, if you Google Rob Kamen, his Wikipedia page says, greatest kickboxer of all time. So whether that's true or not, enough people think that it's written. So he's up there. So Rob Kamen was my absolute idol, and Bas Rutten referred him to me. And, I was like, oh, my God, I'm adjusting Rob Kamen. And I remember after I adjusted him, I was driving home that day, and I was, crying, tears of joy. I was, literally crying. I was like, I met Rob Kamen. So cool. That was kind of a cool thing. And he's actually become a really close friend of mine. We're really good friends to this day. Let's see. Who else? Yeah, I've had some experiences where I met someone who I had seen on TV many, many times, and meeting him was kind of interesting. Let me think of who pops in my head. For that. Well, I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you right now that, some people who are super famous, it just gets to their head and they become not that nice, or they become kind of conceited or entitled. But some people are just so nice and sweet. I'll tell you, Bas Rutten is the nicest guy. Listen, Bas is a good friend of mine, but I don't call him for favors too much. But anytime I've ever needed anything from Bas, he's done it for me. He's a really, really, really nice guy. So I'll tell you right now, Bas Rutten is a really, really, cool. Really nice person who will really be there for you, when you need him. Another guy I'll mention, but it's again, not answering your question, but I'm just kind of segueing. But share. Denny Prokopos, who's one of the best no-gi jiu-jitsu guys in the world. He's Eddie Bravo's first black belt. I don't really count him like this because Denny's been a good friend of mine for years. But Denny Prokopos, man, if I called him at 3 a.m. and I needed something, he'd get up and do it. He's a really nice person who will really be there for you when you need him, if he's your good friend. Let's see, BJ Penn, I've been really good friends with him since 2004, but I'll tell you about BJ Penn, he's just such a regular guy, like hanging out with BJ, which I do, quite a bit. He's just like hanging out with anyone. He's just like a really, he's a world famous figure, but he's just like the most average, normal dude. So I'll say that about him. Let's see what else I can tell you. Kron is really cool. Like, I really enjoy working with Kron. He's really appreciative of what I do, even though he's kind of like a stoic dude. He's really appreciative. Caesar Gracie comes to mind, not that I need Caesar too much for favors, but there's a couple times I've asked Caesar to do stuff for me, and he's come through and done it, without a second thought. If you have any questions about anyone in particular, I'm happy to answer it. I know, all these guys. Yeah.
Yeah. What about, of course, Rickson? Everybody likes to know about, but I asked specifically because he's had so much physical trouble over the last several years. It seems like. So what was it like treating him? And
yeah. I actually was texting with Rickson yesterday, but it's kind of funny timing. Rickson is a real selfless guy. Like, he almost puts the world first ahead of himself. Like, his own health is almost secondary to him to spreading jiu-jitsu, I think. But, we have a really good rapport, and I've worked with him, and that's what I can say about that.
Okay. So in talking about health in general, can you share a few general principles of health that you like to tell people? One or two things. It could be eating or nutrition. It could be exercise. It could be fasting, breathing, whatever you think is very important. Movement modalities. What are some of the things that you think are very important, and what are just a few things you could tell people that they should do, and what are some things that people should not be doing?
Okay. So the first thing is, I think there's just some general things that will help one be healthy, like eating healthy, exercising right, resting right. And I think when it comes to mindset, it's just like faith, because we live in a world of the unknown. Like, let's face it. Like, even the Bible says that the finite mind cannot comprehend the infinite, and all there is the infinite. It's all present. It's everywhere. So we're living in a world of unknown. Now, knowledge will take you so far, and that's good. Increase your knowledge. But there's just some things we just can't understand or know, and that's where you substitute faith when you can't go any further in knowledge. So I think having faith in a bigger picture will keep you healthy.
Nice. I
think doing things that keep you motivated and enthused will keep you healthy. If you're waking up every day and you're not motivated and or enthused about something, it's hard to have energy and be healthy. But if you're motivated and enthused, you're in good shape. So I recommend everyone start doing things that motivates and enthuses them. And I think that's a really good component of health. I also think one of the best books for health you could ever have in your life is a book by Dr. Fleet, who invented the technique that I ultimately do. It's called Rays of the Dawn. You can order it. There's a nonprofit organization that sells Dr. Fleet's materials, and their phone number is 800-531-5628. 800-531-5628 is a nonprofit organization that sells Dr. Fleet's materials, and you could just call them and order Rays of the Dawn. Just, I guess you give me your name and address and your credit card, and they'll just send it out to you. I'm not sure. You could probably get it online from them too, but I'm not sure how well they're set up for that. They're kind of like an old school operation, and it's probably floating around the internet used, but I don't think it's sold new on the internet. But that is one of the best books you can ever read on being healthy. Talks about eating, exercise, resting, mindset. It's powerful. I can't recommend it enough.
Awesome. And I'll put that in the show notes for sure. Let me just ask you a few things, a few modalities, and just give me quick thoughts on them. So movement stuff or mind-body awareness, like Feldenkrais.
I think Feldenkrais is cool. Feldenkrais was an absolute expert in judo. He took his knowledge of judo and made Feldenkrais. I'll say this right off the bat. I like results. I like stuff that works. So it's not that I like Feldenkrais or don't like it, or like acupuncture or don't like it, or like this. Or that. I just like results.
Okay.
So if someone's like, hey, man, I had this serious, they say they had a serious health problem, and they found, I don't know, let's say this acupuncturist, and they went and they're all better. Well, I like acupuncture. I just like what works.
That's great.
So if someone finds a good Feldenkrais practitioner and it helps them, sounds good to me.
What about, I know cold baths are really big right now. What's your take on those? Ice baths.
Well, in chapter 4 of The Rays of Dawn, which I already recommend that everyone get, that was written in 1931, by the way. I think it was copyrighted in the 40s, but he wrote it in 1931. In chapter 4 of The Rays of Dawn, Dr. Fleet talks about hot and cold baths and what they mean. The Wim Hof thing, I think, is cool. I don't know enough about it to say anything conclusively, but as long as you're asking, I'm not so impressed with it. I'm not saying people shouldn't do it. And listen, results are results. So if someone's like, hey, wait a second, Pete, I do the Wim Hof method, and it really helps me. Oh, enough said. Good, do it. If someone loves immersing themselves in cold baths, and they want to follow Wim Hof breathing, which is not really unique because you can find pranayama and yoga and martial arts breathing. But if you want to use his breathing exercises and his cold stuff, and it works for you, hey, good enough for me. Keep doing it. And, if you like it and you feel it intuitively keeps you healthy and it works for you, great.
Okay. What about intermittent fasting?
I am not an expert on the subject. I've heard many topics. I've heard many opinions on it, pro and con. I don't do it. I'm not a big fan of it, but I'll put it in the same category. If someone's like, man, I do intermittent fasting, and I've never been so healthy.
Right.
I've never felt so great. Oh, well, if your intuition says to do it, do it.
Yeah, if they're getting results, you're all for it, right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. But personally, intermittent fasting is not my cup of tea. But if people are doing it with great results and intuitively they think they should do it, yeah, do it.
Okay. So, Dr. Pete, who's had the biggest influence on your life, or who's one of the people that have had the biggest influence on your life? And that's martial arts and life off the mat.
I think the people that come to mind right off the bat is my karate master, Shigeru Oyama. Anyone can look him up. He died recently, but Shigeru Oyama. Master Oyama's best student ever. I spent a long time with him. He had a huge influence on me. I never met Dr. Fleet because Dr. Fleet was, he was born in 1895, but a lot of his disciples were my mentors, and they had a lot of influence on me. And I'd say my father is an awesome dude, and he's, had a huge influence on me.
Nice. Anything that people might be surprised to hear about you or learn about you?
Let's see. Well, let me think about that. I'm not sure if this would be one of the things, but I do, like I said, I play ice hockey. I do jiu-jitsu. I've done kyokushin. I've done a lot of rough stuff. But I have been training in ki aikido with one of the direct disciples of Koichi Tohei. Mm-hmm. And I love it. It is spectacular. Koichi Tohei was the man. And if you think that stuff is fake, you come to the dojo and you try whatever you want on my sensei, and I think you'd be really surprised.
Good luck, right?
Yeah, exactly. You try whatever you want with him. I'm not trying to get his dojo storm, so do not visit his dojo on my behalf to try anything on him.
Yeah.
Let's just make that clear. But yeah, it's pretty spectacular. I'm really enjoying. It's not regular Aikido; it's Ki Aikido, the brand of Koichi Tohei. There's very few of his disciples who are legit and living, but one of them is a guy that I have access to. I'm training there twice a week, and I'm really enjoying it.
And before we close, anybody that you want to acknowledge or shout out to?
I want to acknowledge a few people. First of all, I want to acknowledge John Machado, who is my longtime jiu-jitsu instructor. We're not in the same location anymore, but John Machado, who's the youngest of the 5 Machado brothers, is an amazing teacher and a great guy. I want to acknowledge Carly Gracie, Carley Gracie. You can check out his website, carleygracie.com, Carleygracie.com. Probably the most unknown but greatest jiu-jitsu fighter of the modern times. There are people who say in 1972 when he left Brazil, No one in the whole country, including his family, could last 2 minutes on the ground with him. So people know about Rickson and Hollish, where you say rolls or holds, but Hollish is the right way to pronounce that. And Carlson and, you know, all these other great guys, and they're all amazing. And I'm not ranking them. I'm not qualified for that. But Carlay's left out of a lot of conversations, but people in the know, the old school guys, will tell you that, well, they'll tell you a lot of stuff about him. Carlos Gracie, but he's a good friend of mine, and he's in the San Francisco area, so I get to train with him sometimes. I also want to shout out Carlos Sapão. Carlos is who I got my black belt from, and I still train with him, and he is one of the best jiu-jitsu guys on the planet. I mean, that guy's a little guy with not a very imposing physique, but, man, on the street, I would take him against most people I know. And who else do I want to shout out at the moment? Also, not that he's going to listen to this, but my karate sensei at the moment is Sensei Oyama. He does Enshin Karate, which is an offshoot of Kyokushin. It's a mixture of Kyokushin and Judo. And he's in Japantown in San Francisco, and I train with him when I can. And he's awesome. I think that's it. Those are my shout-outs.
Excellent. Anything else that comes to mind that we haven't talked about or covered that you would like to speak to?
Well, when it comes to healing, you know, if anyone out there is really suffering and you're not well and you want to be well, contact me via my website, sfgoldman.com, and come see me and I'll help you. As far as martial arts, I think we covered everything. And, you know, if you're having a good time and you're achieving your goals, then, you know, you're in good shape. And I want to thank you because this was a really enjoyable interview, and I hope that the content helped a lot of people.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. You have my utmost respect, man. You're a very knowledgeable person. You've got such a great, interesting background, a lot of insights, and you're really healing people. So I admire what you're doing, and keep doing it, man. Wish you a long, healthy, and happy life, my friend.
Same to you, my man. And if you ever want to reconnect with me, I'm always happy to be on the show.
Right on. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. All right. Really enjoyed speaking with Dr. Pete. What an interesting and insightful person he is. Stay tuned now for the Make a Difference, Make an Impact segment. Up now is the Make a Difference, Make an Impact segment.
When we're laying on our deathbed, you're not going to worry about how much money you had, how much power you had, how much prestige. You're going to see that that was all game, that was all an illusion. The only thing that's going to matter is the impact you had on other people's lives.
We are all on a separate journey. But the beautiful thing about our life here on this earth is at my funeral, they ain't going to talk about my success. They're going to talk about who Nick was and how Nick lived and how Nick loved and encouraged.
Success is incredibly important, but even more important than success, it's having an impact. It's knowing you haven't walked the planet in vain. It's knowing that because you've been here, you've blessed lives, you've developed people, and you have made the world a better place.
The effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is. Everything you gain in life will rot and fall apart. And all that will be left of you is what was in your heart.
Life is a mirror. And life gives us not what we want. Life gives us who we are. When you were born, you cried while the world rejoiced. Live your life in such a way that when you die, the world cries while you rejoice.
And that's going to do it for this edition of the show. As always, I thank you for listening. Hope you're enjoying the show. If you feel like you're benefiting from the show and want to show your support, you can support us on our Patreon page, and a link in the show notes. Please like and follow us on social media and help us spread the word by reposting our posts and telling others about the show. You can leave comments on the website at www.GracieJujitsuRocks.com. You can also go to iTunes and leave comments as well as rate the show, and we would appreciate a 5-star rating, which helps us with our standing in iTunes. You can also leave comments on our YouTube channel. If you have suggestions for the show, please don't hesitate to give those. We always like feedback and suggestions. Okay, that's going to do it. So until next time, this is Marty Josie, and I'll see you on the mat.